Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast, with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal. We're here on a special Monday night talking dangerous adrenaline and wrestling gladiators and their big event that's happening Saturday night in Glassboro, New Jersey. It's marking our territory. It's the greatest world title match that they've ever had. And we're going to be joined by a couple of guests here tonight to preview the show. We're going to get down. We're going to talk about this big event that's happening for fans of South Jersey Pro Wrestling. Make sure you guys head out to Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators this Saturday night. Tickets are only $20. And, of course, there's going to be a lot of action. And, of course, it wouldn't be a dog show if they didn't have a lot of championships on the line. Of course, we're going to talk to the World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, Chris Steeler. And I'm going to bring Chris on right now. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. A big night ahead of you this Saturday night. You're taking on Tyson Maddox, and you've been WWGP champion for a minute here. Let's talk about it. How did you get the WWGP title? For folks who haven't checked out a dog show before or are new to the brand, what is the WWGP title?
Well, the WWGP Championship is it's basically a championship that allows me to defend it anywhere against anybody who thinks that they're worthy enough to, try and take it from me. I was good enough to win it a few years ago, and I've been defending it since. Obviously, I've been defending it successfully. I'm actually only the third champion. Biggie Biggs had it. Huckabee had it, and I took it from him. And I'm looking to make it even more prestigious than those two ever thought that they could. And that's what I'm trying to do this Saturday when I take on Tyson Maddox in Glassboro. And he thinks it's going to be easy, but he doesn't know me and what I do and where I've come from. So,
well, and this show is a podcast. We normally talk to fans of the National Wrestling Alliance. We talk about NWA talent. You're wrestling for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and anyone who follows your career, they can see that you've competed in Delaware, New York, and a lot on the East Coast. Tell us a little bit about Chris Steeler. Tell us about the man that got into wrestling. What was the moment that you decided that you wanted to be a pro wrestler?
It's funny. I get asked that a lot, and it's actually kind of different, I think, than some other people. Everybody usually has that one match or that one person that they saw, or that one just particular spot that they saw that said, I want to do this. For me, it was actually a promo. For me, and I said this to the guy's face, and he was actually kind of shocked when I told him about it. It was the Chris Jericho 1004 hold promo.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Everybody does. I stopped watching for a long time when I was younger, and I finally caved in and turned it back on again. And funny thing is, I accidentally turned on the wrong channel at the wrong time. A friend of mine in school tried to get me to watch Monday Night Raw, and I turned it on at around a little after 8:00 one Monday, and I put on TNT instead of USA, and I saw Chris Jericho drop that old school stack of printer paper, and he started rattling off all the holds, and I just thought it was so entertaining and funny, and I was like, man, that's hilarious. This is not what I remember wrestling being. And I was like, man, that would be really cool to be able to entertain people like that. And then I flipped the channel over at 9:00, and the first person I saw was Stone Cold Steve Austin walk out, and I was like, oh, wrestling badass. I didn't realize. And then I've been hooked ever since. And in 2002, I stepped foot in a wrestling school for the first time, and it's been downhill ever since. So
that's an awesome answer. I remember that promo so vividly. I too was a Jerichoholic. What was he calling them back then? Yeah, I guess the Jerichoholics.
Yeah.
Me and some buddies had the Monday Night Jericho shirts, and we'd all watch Raw and SmackDown, or excuse me, Raw and Nitro together, and we'd go back and forth. I live out in the West Coast, so we have the East Coast feed and the West Coast feed. So we only really lost the last hour of Nitro and the first hour of Raw, so we were good.
Yeah.
What a great promo. And so you said that to Jericho. How was his response to that?
It was funny. I actually was working as a stagehand for a concert venue, and I worked like every 3 or 4 days. I just worked, and one day it ended up being I think it was a Bullet for My Valentine concert, and Fozzy was opening.
Wow.
And I didn't know. And then I went to get pizza with the rest of the crew, and they were, Jericho and the band was doing a signing, and I waited for everybody to get their autographs, and I just kind of walked over to him. And even though his manager, the band manager at the time, said nobody else can go over to him, I said, screw that, I'm not missing my opportunity. So I went over to him, and he was like, oh, did I miss an autograph? And I said, no, I don't want an autograph. I don't want a picture. I just want to shake your hand and say thank you. And he said, thank you for what? I said, oh, well, I've been a worker for about, at the time it was probably only maybe 14 years, maybe at the time, something like that. And I was like, and you're the reason why I started. And he goes, oh yeah, well, what about me made you want to become a wrestler? And I thought maybe he figured he heard that a bunch of times. And I told him, oh, it was a 1004 hold promo. And he goes, what? He goes, that's he said. So he stood up and he shook my hand and he was like, all right, you can take a picture. And I was like, okay, why not? And I shrunk down because I'm taller than him. So I shrunk down, and he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, you're the star. I got to make you look bigger. He goes, my man. It was the greatest thing ever. It was hilarious.
That's a great story, man. Jericho was the guy for a lot of us. In that time of wrestling, I was with you, man. WWE kind of lost its flavor. Nitro was doing okay. This was before NWO really took off, and you had Jericho there, and the whole for me, it was the cruiserweight division. Yeah. Everything about the cruiserweight division in WCW was what kept me interested in wrestling, and so it's kind of great that the Jericho brought you back to it, and so much so that now you're performing and you're a professional wrestler yourself.
Yeah, when I started, it was the trainers and everybody would always ask you, who do you want to emulate, who do you want to be like, and at first it was always like, oh, I just want to do all the cool stuff, the cool moves, this and that, and then I, after a while, it took me a little bit, but then I realized I'm like, all right. Who do I look like? Who do I wrestle like? And it always ended up being, well, I'm tall, but I'm skinny, but I'm not big, but I can't do the power move. So it always ended up being, model myself after Jericho, Edge, Christian, people like that. And then that's the kind of style that I do. And that's still the style that I do now, because I don't do the flippy stuff, just not because I don't want to. It's honestly because I can't. So I'd rather just do the stuff that I'm good at and not try to do something that I don't do and leave it to the people who are really good at it. And then that nowadays that actually makes me different because I don't do it. But right. Doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done, but there's no need for me to do it if everybody else can do it. So I leave it to them. Because I'd rather them be able to do it and make it look good, and me not try to do it and make it look like crap. So,
well, and not only that, but variety is the spice of life, my man. How much, if everyone was doing the same move set, then it'd get awfully boring pretty quick. So, it's cool. And the guys that you chose to emulate, legendary wrestlers. Each one of them holding a world championship in their own right. Jericho holding multiple world championships.
Oh, yeah.
What a great group of guys to emulate, to look at. Christian, former NWA world champion, and ECW, I know that's WWE version, but still their version of the world title for a short time, and everyone knows what Edge has done, and of course Jericho, man, the guy's legendary. He's maybe one of the greatest of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
So then what was the transition from, young man, teenager watching pro wrestling to actually taking that first steps and getting into training and all that stuff? Like, you look at mom and dad and say, okay, guys, I'm going to be a pro wrestler and this is what I'm going to do. And was there pushback with that?
Oh, absolutely. So when I was 17, I actually, I played a lot of baseball when I was, younger, all the way up through to being a senior in high school. And I didn't make the varsity I didn't make my varsity team. And me and my one high school friend, we were like, oh, why don't we, we did the stupid backyard wrestling, just like pretty much almost everybody did, whether they want to admit it or not. You mess around with your friends. But one of my friends in high school actually bought a high spots ring, a 20x20 ring, and built it. Yeah, and he built it in his backyard.
That's awesome.
And that's where I actually started taking my first bumps. And then I was like, I think it would be cool if I went to a school so I could be like, look what I'm doing. Like I'm training to be a wrestler. And I found two schools in Jersey. One was in North Jersey, and the other one was the Monster Factory. And when I, being 17 and no car, the Monster Factory was a two-plus hour drive, and then the other school in North Jersey was only 25-30 minutes. So, on the behest of a few people that I talked to, told me not to go to that one. I ended up having to go to that one anyway, and I was there from 2002 to 2009 or 2011, whenever it closed down. I think it was 2009. I was there, and I learned a lot. I made a lot of good friends. A lot of people who have made something for themselves now. Fred Rosser, one of the guys who trained me. Sean Bennett, one of the refs that are on Raw. Dan, who used to wrestle as Danny E or Dan Echoes. He's one of the refs on SmackDown. I mean, all these guys, Falaba was there. Like a lot of these guys that went off to do something pretty big, like were the people that trained me or trained with me. And then after that closed down, I found a school in Staten Island, and that's where I'm based out of now. I've been there for the good part of almost 12 years now.
Wow.
And it's called Warriors of Wrestling in Staten Island. I help train there or not train. I just say I help teach, because I don't train anybody, because, I'm not anybody who's done anything big in the business. I try to say that I'm like a professor or a teacher. I take what was taught to me by people who have done something in this business, and I just reiterate it back to them, and try to just teach them what was taught to me by people like Dr. Tom Pritchard and Stevie Richards and
wow.
and when I Steve Kern and Billy Kidman and even when he was a lot, Dusty helped. I was, when I went down to FCW for a week, Dusty was there and things like that. So I just try to take the little bit from everybody who knows something, and I just try to reiterate it back to the students. So I don't train anybody. I just try to help teach them.
You help facilitate the training.
Yeah.
I just brought Jaden on with us too. Jaden, from Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators as well.
Unfortunately.
You're lucky I'm not Dr. Zirconium, because, I'll have to remember that, champ.
Yeah, just keep feeding people to me for me to beat. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I don't do all that. That's Jim Molineaux. He's the matchmaker, and Dr. Zirconium is the owner. I'm just here to do all the grunt work. I do everything. I do all the hard stuff. They take all the glory.
True.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, Chris Steeler, he has been in the ring with some of the biggest names in this business and has beaten them all. And in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, since becoming the World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, and that's just his defenses in DAWG, he has defeated like William Huckabee, who's the longest reigning WWGP champion of all time. He's defended against Deshaun Pratt, who is the king of Camden. absolutely extremely talented wrestler. At the last event, he took on Ring of Honor superstar and a big human kaiju, basically himself, and took him all around the ring and fought him all over, and still came out as a champion. You know, Chris Steeler he may not get the credit he deserves, but he belongs up there with all the big names that he trained with and all the big names that have helped him. He belongs up there because he's a super talented wrestler. It's a shame he's such a jerk, but still.
I wasn't going to pay you, but now I'm not paying you now.
Well, if you're going to keep paying, I'll keep going.
I thought he was a delightful fellow. I don't know what you're coming from. Seems very nice.
He's the only wrestler.
I'm just me. Whether you want to, you know, I don't change who I am. You know, if you want to boo me, you can boo me. If you want to cheer me, you can cheer me. If you want to mace me in the face like some fat old lady did once, then, you know, you can do what you want to do.
That didn't happen. That didn't happen in Glassboro, did it?
That happened in Glassboro.
What?
He got a lady so angry. She not only maced him, she assaulted him, followed him to the locker room, spraying him in the face.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
You know, you talk about the old days, and we would reminisce about Freddie Blassie at the Grand Olympic Auditorium, you know, and getting stabbed on his way out of the arena because he generated that much heat. Chris, my man, are you just generating that much heat that you're getting pepper sprayed?
Yeah, I was proud. I'm not gonna lie. Even though it hurt, I was proud of it. I was proud of it. It made its way down to like South, like Georgia, to like Chris Hamrick. Even was like, oh man, that's some like 1980s heat, and I'm like, yeah, like absolutely.
What show was that at? Or excuse me, what event was that at, Jaden?
Oh
God, you were against
Bundles.
Yeah, DAWG Bundles. That was before he was the WWGP champion. DAWG was extremely popular too in DAWG, and that lady was not having it. And you know, I think Dr. Zirconium should have threw her out, but you were just I don't understand. I was back there when he was talking to you, and you were ecstatic as you were rubbing out your eyes in absolute pain.
Yeah, they asked me if I wanted to have her kicked out, and I told the doctor, I was like, nah, leave her. I got to go back out there again. I can get her. Don't worry.
That's amazing. That's a great story. Holy crap. And the thing is like in some places, you know, they would press charges, they would arrest her, they'd kick her out. Nah, Chris says, keep her here, man. I'm coming back out later. I got to get more heat. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
I love that. So, I mean, you are the WWGP champion. We talked about like who you beat for the belt, what you've done with it. What does it mean to you to represent that title and represent the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators in that capacity as the WWGP champion?
I mean, it's awesome. It's always an like, he might call me a jerk, but like, it's always an honor to when you can represent a company and take their title and bring it and try to make it bigger than what it is, because it's not the title that makes the wrestler, it's the wrestler that makes the title. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I try to, you know, like I said, whether people want to hate me or like me and boo me and cheer me or whatever they want to do, I don't care. They can do whatever they want. They paid their money. You know, they can do whatever they want as long as they don't cross that line. But my job is just to defend the title and make it prestigious. And as I call myself, I set a new standard every time I go in the ring, and I do what I got to do.
And you'd mentioned you asked Jaden, and actually it's Jim, to send you more challengers, to send you more talent. Who is out there that, I mean, especially with everything that's changing now with Ring of Honor and AEW and the amount of free agents that have kind of flooded the market, who would you like to defend that title against? Who would you like to step into your ring?
I mean, there's so many, like there's a lot of people that obviously there's dream matches that I've always wanted to have, like if I want to be a quote unquote mark for myself. But I mean, everybody has the ones that they want. there's definitely a few people that I haven't gotten to step in the ring with. That there's a possibility. I think Cardona would be amazing to get in the ring with. I think. Oh man, I never had the chance to wrestle him one-on-one, even when I was going to Maine a lot. Matt Taven.
Two great talents right there.
Yeah, never had a chance to really wrestle him one-on-one. There's so many that are out there. There's just too many to name. But
sure.
I mean, if Jim's listening, open up that checkbook and start bringing people. Let's go.
Yeah. That is assuming, though, that he gets past Tyson Maddox, because Tyson Maddox is the real deal. He is so damn good. He's basically a love child.
I only worry about people that are 5'8" and above. So I'm good.
He's 5'8" exactly, so you're perfect.
Damn it.
But yeah, he's like, if Bad News Brown and Apollo Crews had a baby, that's what he reminds me of. He's both nasty and athletic. So good, so powerful. Has a power slam that's up there with the absolute best. And he can do so many. His drop kick is absolutely beautiful. So Steeler has a real tough challenge on it in his hand. And I know there's a lot of people that have been challenging him. Eric Martin wants a shot with him. He actually wrestled against Eric Martin and third-generation superstar Brogan Finley in a three-way. And he came out on that. And I know Eric Martin's been wanting a championship match after that. Fallah Bah has actually been talking about getting a shot with him. So that's somebody in his past that he knows a lot about.
That's a man that I've gone to war. I've wrestled him in probably every state that I've wrestled in, but the last match I had with him was a destructive 3 stages of hell match.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of blood loss in that match, so there's a lot of history there, good and bad.
Yeah. And that's what he said. He wanted to be the one to take that championship from him. He specifically said that. I'd love to see you against Fred Rosser. I think that would be great. If he ever comes back to Jersey, we can work that out. I'll ask Dr. Zaccone just for my own personal enjoyment. And there's a lot of wrestlers in DAWG, and that's just DAWG itself. WWGP is a multi-promotional championship. I'm sure we're going to see the biggest names all over the world take on Chris Steeler for that championship sometime.
I mean, that's you kind of already got me salivating at some of those names. I mean, of course, the OGK, those two dudes are so talented, but then the Fallah Bah, I mean, that dude is, for a guy that's that big, that size, I mean, he really moves around the ring and he brings a lot of power. I mean, those are some good matchups for you right there.
I'll take them all. So confident.
And you've been in the business for quite some time. How long have you been wrestling for? Like it was 19 years, right?
Yeah, I'm in my 20th year now.
20 years. And in that time, I mean, you've obviously, of course, you become one of the stars of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and I know that you've wrestled in a lot of matches in the Northeast. Is there places that you would like to go next? Is there any place that you've targeted as where you want to go next? Yeah,
I mean, I've wrestled in. I've wrestled up and down the Northeast. Obviously, I've been to Texas. I've been to Tennessee. I've never wrestled in California, so that would be really cool.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. There, Jay.
Yeah, hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
I had a book somewhere.
Yeah, never been to out there. I mean, I defend my title on NWA TV. If anybody wants to book me there too, I'm good for that too. Let's go.
That'd be entertaining. They'd probably not let you bring the belt on TV, but nevertheless,
I still wrestle for them though.
Sure, absolutely.
You might as well. You defeated them like half their roster, haven't you?
Whatever I got to do. Get more exposure. I need to get more exposure out there. My one and only AEW appearance wasn't enough.
How did dealing with COVID-19, how did that impact your career? Was it a chance for reflection? Did it redetermine you? Did it depress you? I mean, how did dealing with the global pandemic impact your pro wrestling career?
It definitely, for just like everybody, it definitely depressed me a little bit because I went into a little bit of a downward spiral when it came to like body wise. I've never had like an amazing physique, but I've always been like okay. But during the pandemic, I shot from I was actually my best. I was down to just over 200 pounds with a very, very low body fat percentage, because I was actually, the week of the shutdown, I was actually supposed to go to New Orleans to wrestle for a company down there, and I ended up getting booked for SmackDown. But the day that the whole world shut down was the day I was supposed to head to the airport, and that sucked. And then because they shut everything down, like literally everything was shut down at that point. And then, you know, at the time I was also running a health club in Jersey, so you know I always had access to a gym. But then for the first 2 or 3 months after the pandemic started, I couldn't even get into a gym at all anywhere. So I shot up from 202 to about 245, and it was just bad. It was bad weight. It wasn't even good weight, because I don't know how bad it was out there for you guys, but over here it was even hard just to get chicken. It was hard to get healthy food. I was stuck with boxed pasta and pasta sauce because I was more worried about buying food for my son, who at the time was not even one yet. So and then I had a company that we were doing some underground shows with no fans and stuff like that, even though we weren't really supposed to, but we still wanted to wrestle. But it was probably the worst I've ever looked. I ended up even putting a singlet top on, which was awful. but the best part is now I feel like it rejuvenated me a little bit. I feel like I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I also feel like I don't look my actual age. Whenever I tell people how old I am, they're shocked, which is always a good thing. Which just means I can still do this for a while longer without having to stop. Knock on wood, I don't have any like serious nagging injuries except for a shoulder issue. But surprising, after 20 years, I've only again, knock on wood, I've only had one really, really serious injury in 20 years. So I've been lucky.
One of the things that I've heard from a lot of people who are in a similar position to you is that it gave them time. It forced them to literally take a break. And like for you, for doing this for 20 years, I mean, that's a long time. That's a long grind. And you're able to rest your body. And I know it's not time that you want off, but at least the redeeming quality is like your body got a break from it without really losing any steam, because you were just like everyone else. You kind of forced to step away, not that you stepped away because you wanted to, but because you were forced to. So your body had to take that break, which probably in the long term is better for your overall, career anyways, because now when everything's coming back, and I mean, I just said this to my wife the other day. Well, I guess I'm glad the pandemic's over, because it just feels like everything's back to normal now. Wrestling shows are happening everywhere. Life has kind of gone back to what it was pre-pandemic. So, of course, with this big event on April 23rd in Glassboro, New Jersey, when you'll be defending that WWGP title, you've had some rest, and you're coming back to the Max Fit Sports Center. And we're wishing you nothing but the best of luck for what's happening on Saturday night.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. It's been pretty much like every show that I've been doing has just been like crazy with like the fans, because they all want to be back.
Right.
They've been more rabid. They've been louder. It's been good. And I mean, I can't complain, because whether, again, it took me a long time to realize it. Oh, not a long time, but probably took me for the first 5 years of my career to realize that, you don't do it for yourself. You actually do have to do it for the people watching, because they're the ones that control everything. And I'm not saying that to pander to the crowd, because I don't really care, but no, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, it's whether I'm just myself. I just turn it up, you know what I mean? So it's whether, as soon as my music hits and I get to walk out there, and like whatever pain I'm going through or whatever problems I have, it just all goes away for, that 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever I am out there for. So it's the best thing I've ever done in my entire life, other than having my son.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't change the last 20 years for anything. I mean, I have stories. I have friends. The stories alone there's so many stories that I can't even say again, because it's like, I look back and I'm like, wow, good thing, like, none of this gets recorded. Like, it's crazy, the things that we did on the road, but I would never change it for anything.
I mean, that's awesome, man. And again, if people want to, if they want to follow you on the socials, or do you have a merch store, how can folks get in contact with you?
So everything is Steeler, STEELER WMOS, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I do have a pro wrestling tees store, but I also have some of my own t-shirts that I make myself, that I'm going to have up on my Facebook soon once I finish the full designs. And then that they can, if anybody does want them, it's just Venmo. It's always free shipping. Doesn't matter the size. The price doesn't change for the size. And I'll have like 3 or 4, maybe 5 designs up there, and order it, Venmo it, and then I will, or PayPal, whatever works better. And I'll ship it out to you literally the next day, because it only takes me a couple minutes to make the shirt. So
that's dope. That's a great side hustle you got for that. Because having the ability to not only have a store online where anyone can see it, but then you're making your own, like, the new designs available to the fan base. That's great too. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll wrap it up here, but again, we want to wish you the best of luck on Saturday. Please go kick his ass, because we want to have you back on here again for the next Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator event that happens in the next few months or so.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll have the title still then, so it's cool.
Nice. All right. Thank you again, Chris. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Chris Steeler, if you need them, we'll put links in the description for the podcast as well, on Facebook, Twitch, and of course on all social medias for Chris Steeler's page. Cool dude, man. Did you ever hear that Chris Jericho story before, Jaden?
Yes, I actually did. I actually kind of helped Dr. Zirconium find him. He's been on the radar for DAWG for a long time. And when it was finally perfect, he took that ball and he not only ran with it, he ran with it, ran back again, ran back forth, did a slam dunk, did a couple goalie shots with it, fought a referee, ran back again, then hit a couple more touchdowns, and then did a spin-a-rooney, and then started running back and forth again. That's how much he did.
So he did a spin-a-rooney?
He did a spin-a-rooney.
You should have Chris talk about the spin-a-rooney. Chris Steeler, he is the WWGP champion, and again, he'll be taking on Tyson Maddox. And you described him as a combination of Bad News Brown and
Apollo Crews.
Cruz. I mean, that's
talented. This guy's got a drop kick that's up there with Brad Armstrong and some of the best drop kicks in the business. He looks like when he hits, he looks like he knocks your skull off.
Oh, that's incredible. I saw Mr. Jim Molineaux. Let me try that again. Molineaux. I got it.
Yay.
Molineaux. He was.
I guess that phonetic spelling we sent you helped, huh?
It did, and I needed it. I should have posted it on my wall over here so I could see it better. I saw Jim was popping on for a second, but he dropped off. While we're waiting for him to get back on, let's talk some more about some more of the matches that are happening again at the big event on Saturday night. We're gonna see a first time ever match. This was the match that was going to be, and I still think it is, sponsored by Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information. Yes. And that would be Tony Vincentilla versus Nikos Rikos. And
Tony Vincita.
Thank you.
I like how you threw an extra N in there.
I thought, I don't have my glasses on. Sorry.
Yeah, that is the Alliance-Wrestling.com sponsored matchup. Tony Vincita is a former one half of the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championship.
Right.
Champions. He actually held that title twice. And he is now on a singles career. You might have seen him. He's actually been working out recently at the Nightmare Factory, trained by the same trainer who trained Ray Jaz.
Whoa.
And it's so extremely talented. Now is out of the tag team scene and working his way into the singles ranks. Again, one of the most talented wrestlers you'll see. Works extremely hard in the gym. Actually trained to be a cop before becoming a professional wrestler.
Wow.
That could be a positive or negative, your choice. But and they're so talented. And then Nikos Rikos once wrestled for the DAWG Championship against Breaker Morant, took him to the limit, and then recently he's been feuding with Ty Thomas. Ty Thomas, one of the most talented wrestlers out there. He defeated him twice, once by notorious means, once by disqualification. He was supposed to wrestle Ty, but Ty unfortunately had another commitment. So he asked for a challenger, anybody that we got, and give him the best we got. And I think Tony Vincita is an excellent challenger for him. Thank goodness Mr. Molineaux helped get him on that card, because that is a great match. And speaking of Mr. Molineaux.
Greetings, sir. How are you this evening?
I'm great. Peace and love, everyone. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast. Of course, we're here previewing the big event marking our territory, which is taking place Saturday night, April 23rd. Tickets are only $20. You get them at the MaxFit Sports Center. And you are responsible for putting a lot of these matches together. And before we get to the event, let's talk a little bit about you, because, this show, our podcast is more geared towards the National Wrestling Alliance fans. We cover NWA Power. We talk about that show ad nauseum here on this podcast. But you are somebody who has a lot of experience in the world of professional wrestling. You're one of the original referees for ECW. I think a lot of people might not have known that. Let's talk about that briefly for a moment. Your time in ECW and how chaotic. I mean, I know they just came up on 25 years celebrating the first ever pay-per-view Barely Legal. Let's talk to you for just a few moments about your time in ECW.
Yeah, I was, like you said, I was one of the original referees. In fact, the only two people that were there the entire run of the original run of ECW were myself and my fellow referee John Finnegan. Others, would left and came back, or left and never came back. But we were the only ones there for the original run. And I love what you said in my intro about, people not knowing me as an ECW referee. Well, that's a compliment to me, because that means I did my job. I'm not supposed to be known as doing this or doing that. The real hardcore ECW fans would know, I did this match or that match. But a lot of people wouldn't, which means that I did my job.
Now, one of the questions that, because I'm so damn NWA centric, I have to ask, were you there the night that Shane Douglas tossed down the belt?
Absolutely was.
And if so, what was your immediate reaction to seeing that? That's a legendary championship in this business. And I get why it happened, and I understand why, but did you have a sense of any feeling of conflict when that happened?
No, not really. I was an NWA fan myself. I mean, I didn't become enthralled with wrestling and deciding that I could be a part of it and do something in wrestling until I became an NWA fan. Grew up here in the New Jersey area, and so I grew up watching the WWF. And so I became a fan of the NWA, in particular their tag teams, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, Fantastics in particular. And unfortunately at the time, the NWA really was a deceased company. And, you know, they were on their last leg at the time. And I thought it was a great move for ECW as a company. It was another, you know, reason to throw the spotlight on ECW. There were different steps that the company made along the way to say, hey, look at us. And every time that we did, it was a step up. It was never really a step down. And that was definitely a step up from, you know, what I would consider, you know, things that we had done in the past to be the steps up. This continued our upward level.
So, and then in those, you said you were there from the beginning. So you were there for Shane Douglas's reign, but also you were there for things that were so important, like Terry Funk winning the ECW World Championship and what he meant to the NWA. And as a fan growing up, watching the NWA and participating in that environment, what was it like to see somebody like Terry Funk involved with ECW? And did that lend a lot of credibility in your eyes to what you guys were doing?
Oh, it lent a tremendous amount of credibility. The fact that he was a former NWA champion, the fact that he worked for so many companies over the years. He had worked for the WWF, you know, when they were starting their rise to a national company. You know, he had just come off being known for the death matches and the matches he had done in Japan, the death match series he had done, you know, obviously against Cactus Jack McFoley, but also the tag team stuff that he'd done in Japan with his brother Dory Jr. So, I mean, he was a worldwide name that drew attention to the company, and he was a tremendous asset to ECW, whether it was what he did in the ring or what he did behind the scenes with helping guys with their philosophies and things like that, or even helping Paul if he needed guidance with ideas.
So, I mean, that's so cool. I mean, sorry, I'm marking out a little bit because, again, Terry Funk was such a...
Hey, I marked out too while I was there. I mean, you know, I mean, unfortunately, I grew up in an era where you didn't mark out in the locker room.
Right.
You know, nowadays you see guys taking pictures in the locker room and things like that. And we never did anything like that. And I never marked out in the locker room, but I was like, oh my God, I'm in the locker room with Terry Funk. Yeah. And so I'm going to listen as much as I can. And it wasn't just Terry. It was other people when Paul would bring in people that I knew could not only help the company, but help me. Because I knew that, you know, I'm not long for the ring. And, you know, and I can pick things up to help people down the line. You know, in the long run, I hope that my legacy with the wrestling business is I was able to help people move ahead with reaching their goals, and you know, and being able to sit under, as Ernie Ladd would have said, sitting under the learning tree,
right? Yeah.
You know, from Terry Funk, Tommy Rogers, Tommy Rich, you know, Abdul the Butcher, Kevin Sullivan, you know, all those names that, you know, that were big names to come into ECW. You know, it was a chance to pick their brains a little bit, or, you know, listen to what they had to say.
One of my, so I'm a West Coast guy. I live in Southern California, and I get to hang out at some of the United Wrestling Network, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood TV tapings. And one of my favorite memories was right after the NWA and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood split in 2012. And Percy Pringle III was there, and he started asking Dave, well, who are they going to put the title on? And so, of course, me being the NWA mark that I am, was like, oh, well, they're talking about Damian Wayne, and we start listing names. And I got to be a part of that, like that moment where you're listening to somebody legendary who has opinions on wrestling, and you're sharing your opinion and they're hearing yours. And it was just one of those wild moments. And I still scratch my head. How was I so lucky to hang out with Percy Pringle for, you know, 20 or 30 minutes before a show.
Right. I mean, I can remember one of the first matches that I did at ECW working with a name, and it was Kevin Sullivan.
Right, wow.
And Kevin was going over a match, and unfortunately I can't remember the opponent, but they were going over the match, and he turned to me and he said, "Jim, what do you think about that?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, excuse me, sir." My opinion matters in your match. I thought to myself, and I took that as a great honor.
Let me ask you one more question about ECW, because I know we're focusing tonight on DAWG and marking our territory, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because of the controversy also at the time with ECW and the NWA. Do you have any memories of a Dennis Cortelluzzo that you'd like to share?
Oh, all right. We're going to be here for like a week now.
Right. Good night, everybody. You know what? Being in New Jersey and growing up here and growing up with independent wrestling in New Jersey when I did start going, and Dennis being a major spotlight on that, I really don't have any Dennis stories. I hear stories from Dennis I hear stories about Dennis all the time. Jane probably has a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't have that many run-ins, or I had no run-ins with Dennis, but yeah, I didn't have that much interaction with Dennis that I could give you a story.
Fair enough. I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask, because I've heard stories from Fred, I've heard stories from Jaden, I've heard a lot of stories about Dennis, but and as many good stories as I hear bad ones, and it's always like a balancing act. Like, oh yeah, if you told me he was the greatest thing to happen to wrestling in New Jersey, I heard a story that proves it, and then I've heard the story where he's the worst thing to happen to Jersey wrestling. So,
and they're both 100% true.
You're right.
My best way to describe Dennis Cortelluzzo is he will give you the shirt off his back. Unfortunately, he probably stole it from somebody else, but still.
Well, then let's put our attentions to something that's very important, that's near and dear to our hearts. The reason why we're here tonight, and that's, of course, marking our territory, which we've said happens this Saturday night, April 23rd at the MaxFit Sports Center. Tickets are just $20. I believe that Jaden has said that you're buying the seat, but you only need the edge.
I heard that somewhere before recently.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we're fortunate enough. Our relationship with Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, we've been doing these podcasts on and off for several years, and we're going to get to sponsor a big matchup, as Jaden was talking about right before he came on, with Nikos Ricos taking on Tony Vincita. Did I say it right this time?
No, you didn't. It's Vincita.
That's what I said, Vincita. Come on.
You said Vincita. You like to throw in extra N's in your words.
No, I said Vincita. James back
there. Okay.
I think he did. I'd let him go. I mean,
So that's the match that we're sponsored, but there's a lot of other matches. One that kind of caught my eye, because Vinny the Fixer is somebody that is he's synonymous with DAWG. He's been around for such a long time with the promotion, but this time he's coming representing another company. He's bringing his championship to the show, the MAWA Championship, and he's going to be defending that against Getty Cahoon. Did I say that
Cahoon.
Right?
Yeah, Getty Cahoon. We just saw him this weekend, and he was pretty damn good. He's so good.
Yeah, he's. I'll tell you what, Vinny's up for a challenge with this one. Getty is one hell of a wrestler. I mean, he doesn't physically look like Bruiser Brody, but he gives you that Bruiser Brody attitude. It just, he'll just come at you. And I've seen him a couple of times over the last several months. And I think I'm going to see him a few more times in the next couple of months also. He's very, very good, very talented.
So when you're constructing these cards, I mean, what are you looking for in talent? Like what is the if I'm someone who wants to come work for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, what are you looking for when it comes to talent?
I'm looking for competition. I'm looking for people that can give not only the champions a good competition, but the other talent that we use on a regular basis. a good competition, and I'm looking for the fans to be entertained not only that night, but enough to say, hey, I'm going to buy a ticket for the next show.
Is there anybody out there right now that you can mention that you've been scouting, or people that you're looking at to potentially bring in for a show?
It's so difficult. Jaden probably answered this better, but I can say on my part, it's very difficult because there's so much going on in New Jersey, Philadelphia, or Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, all in that area. There's so much going on. It's really hard to nail people down to a date, as we've had trouble in the last few events trying to get people, and even losing people that we use on a fairly regular basis. Ty Thomas being an example. I'd love to book Ty Thomas every show, but people want to be. And I don't blame the talent. You want to be seen by as many people as you can. So get out there and get your name with other places. But yeah, there's people that I've seen. I just worked for Damian Adams the other night. Had a show up in Hackettstown, New Jersey, and saw some really amazing talent up there. And I dropped a few names to Jaden to consider, to look at. Because it's not all on me.
Yeah, I helped Mr. Molineaux. I sent him a lot of people. I sent him to Dr. Zirconium. And I know Jim Molineaux and I were just looking this past weekend. I know you're talking about bringing Adam Chandler back. Another very talented, underrated wrestler. He's kind of the Dr. Zirconium and works well with Mr. Molineaux about finding zirconium in the rough. And he's definitely one in there. Again, a lot of people don't know who he is, but they really should. And he should be somewhere big time right now. He's so good in the ring, so strong too.
Well, there's definitely not a shortage of talent in that area, but there's definitely not a shortage of talent that's on April 23rd. I mean, you've got all these wonderful superstars, and you got Daredevil Dave Dahl, who will also be there. So it's great that you've got so much talented wrestlers, and you're allowing Dave Dahl to be there. He's going to be taking on.
It's a contractual agreement, unfortunately.
I feel like he might have some dirt on Dr. Zirconium because he's at every show almost, and he's got his hands full that night too. He's taking on Patch, and from the videos that I've seen out in Southern California that I watch on Dog Pro Wrestling's YouTube channel, man, that guy Patch is he's a little out there.
Patch is a ball of fire, not only in the ring, but getting to the ring and leaving the ring. So, I mean, if you've never seen Patch, look him up online on videos, and you will be entertained from the second the first note hits before he comes through the curtain to his exit.
Go ahead, Jane.
So I always equated Patch to the Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, but he's got the personality in the ring more like a rabid shark. So going to the ring, he's Jimmy Valiant. Inside the ring, imagine if you just put a T-Rex and amped them up on some caffeine, and that's what Patch reminds me of.
But he has fully functional arms that could reach you and grab you.
Yes, he doesn't have those little appendages. He actually has fully functional arms, and he can chop somebody with them.
I have seen those chops. One of the matches that you guys are presenting that I haven't seen a lot of either one of these guys, so I'm kind of interested to see how this one's going to play out. And that's the Jersey Cowboy, Steven Stetson, will be stepping into the ring with Glassboro's own Eric Martin. Jaden was talking about Eric Martin as a potential suitor to challenge Chris Steeler if he hangs on to the WWGP title. Will this match have some sort of repercussions? Would one of these guys potentially be a suitor for that WWGP title?
Yeah, I would definitely think so. Especially Eric Martin, because he's been with us for quite a while and has been a stable at DAWG, and has worked his way up the ladder. And if he continues up that ladder, he definitely deserves a title shot of some sort. If I'm not mistaken, this is Steve Stetson's first time with DAWG. I wasn't sure if he had been here before I was involved with the matchmaking, but I just saw Steve Stetson mention that Damian Adams show in Hackettstown. I just saw him at that show. He's a Damian Adams product. And he's an incredible talent. He's really kind of just starting out. I've seen him there. I've seen him in ECWA. I know what kind of match this is, and I thought this would be a really good matchup for both. And I'm not looking to really call it a matchup, but a challenge for each competitor. And that's the way I look at all the matches. I'm not looking to match them up so that they look good against each other. I'm looking for a good challenge for each other, in the way of helping or in the way of getting that each individual up the ladder.
One thing about DAWG is when they have a wrestler against any other wrestler, the goal is that both wrestlers come out better than they came into, and it's steel sharpens steel. I think I hear that a lot on the Alliance Guys podcast.
Yep.
And these guys are titanium, so titanium sharpening titanium right now.
So then, one question that I know I don't want to get any heat here, but I know that it was recently reported that the DAWG tag team titles were going to be stripped from the former champions, and I want to know if there's been a decision from Dr. Lawrence Zirconium, excuse me, or James Jaden. Have you guys heard anything yet about who might be involved with that crowning of the new DAWG tag champions?
Jade, you want to take the lead on that one?
All right. They don't know. I know there is talks. I know that there's going to be discussions. I think there's been some wrestlers contacted. I'll have to ask Dr. Zirconium. I don't know. He's keeping it close to his chest. I think he's waiting until after this event to not distract from it. But yeah, for what I understand, there's going to be some sort of match, most likely, since DAWG has a tendency to do this, a four corners elimination match to crown a new champion. But again, I don't know that. I have to wait until Dr. Zirconium says it out loud, but I just heard some rumblings.
And just on my end, I pretty much have heard the same thing, and just threw a couple of tag team names out there for everyone to discuss amongst themselves, and we'll see what happens from there.
I had to ask because I saw the breaking news a couple weeks back, and I knew that they were set to be a part of this show, and I know that's why we got Vinny the Fixer defending the MAWA championship, because he more or less kind of replaced that tag team match. But just wanted to know if there was anything percolating as it would be with those tag team titles. Another matchup that's another Glassboro's own is Adonis Valerio taking on Zach Ramses. Did I get that one right?
Yes.
All right. I'm getting better as the night goes. I get better. What was this match set up for, Jim, and what do you like about this one?
Well, Zach's a newcomer, another newcomer to DAWG, and again, it's another opportunity for Zach as a newcomer to come in and prove himself, and also for Adonis to prove himself to step up to the next level. He's a local. He's been used. He's been a part of DAWG for several shows, several years, and maybe he's had a series of injuries over the last couple of years. So, and he seems to be injury free right now, having a good run here. So, let's give him an opportunity to step up and show what he can really do.
One of the things I like about what Mr. Molineaux and Dr. Zirconium do, Zach Ramses doesn't really wrestle in New Jersey. He wrestles in Delaware a lot. He wrestles in Pennsylvania a lot, but he doesn't really wrestle in Jersey. And there's so many wrestling promotions around in South Jersey alone. There's about 16 trillion, and they all use around the same wrestlers, unfortunately. So I know Mr. Molineaux here, he goes around because he still referees when he's not doing his work in Dangerous John Wrestling Gladiators. He finds a lot of talent and says, this guy's great. I want to bring him in. And I know Dr. Zirconium has ear to the pulse, trying to find that next big thing, that zirconium in the rough. So it's nice to see somebody in a matchup you've probably never seen before against a wrestler you may never even heard of, but when after you're done, you're gonna hear them all the time. There's a lot of people who started in DAWG nobody in the New Jersey knew of. Damian Wayne, Chance Prophet is a good example. Dirty Money, and then even Ray Jaz, he wasn't doing very much at all until he started working for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling, Gladiators, and now he's everywhere. And that's continuing, hopefully, the trend that you'll see these wrestlers you've never heard of, and all of a sudden now they're going to become household names, especially if you're a fan of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling, Gladiators. South Jersey's #1 wrestling promotion, by the way.
The way you describe that, as there's 16 trillion promotions in your area in Southern California, I feel like we're not far behind, maybe about 12 trillion. And you're right, it becomes such a problem when every single show, every single event features the same tag team or same singles match that you see everywhere else. It loses its appeal. So I do celebrate all three of you for being able to come up with first-time matchups, bringing in talent from outside the area that brings value to the show that they're not going to see it anywhere else. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
you have to. Any promotion has to, just to make it crisp, make it different, make it stand out.
And that's coming from the experience of both Mr. Molineaux and everybody in charge of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling, Gladiators. I remember in my day, I feel so old when I say that, but I remember when you wrestled in multiple states because you didn't want to be known as a 40-miler.
Yeah.
You might have wrestled in your state for one company, but you didn't wrestle for anybody else because everybody else hated everybody else back then. So if you wrestled for me, you can't wrestle for them. And it was almost all the promoters back then. And then going around, there's so much talent and you learn from so much different crowds. And there's different ways, like Southern wrestling is very different than California wrestling, which is very different than Texas wrestling. Right. And there's the Northeast, which is an amalgam, I think, of everything, but I don't think they only do, don't do it as well as everyone else in all those pieces, but they do a lot of different things. And that's great to see when you bring in that talent and they come in and they wrestle somebody a style they may not be used to. And now all of a sudden you're having the best match you've ever had because you're drawing out and you're increasing your horizons and just learning more and being better in the ring because of it.
Well, I think the idea that if you're a hybrid pro wrestler, if you can do multiple styles, I mean, you infinitely become more valuable. And to your point, Jaden, wrestling is different in Nashville than it is in Atlanta. Wrestling is different in California than it is in Texas. And of course, it's just every bit of it's different. So when you can bring in those unique pieces like a Damian Wayne, like you said, from West Virginia, I think that brings so much value to a card. And again, hats off to you guys for being able to keep bringing in these talents that, again, aren't from the area and help bring so much value to the show.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to thank Mr. Molineaux. He is so good at finding people. He's always coming up and saying, what do you think of this guy? Have you seen this guy? Do you have a video of this guy? And he has an excellent eye for talent. I think it's not just because he was working with ECW. He has trained a lot of talent, too. He's responsible for a lot of wrestlers' careers. And I think that has helped him, too, with finding people because he knows what to look for.
Well, that being said, the only match we haven't talked about yet is the big DAWG Championship match with Ray Jaz defending against the former champion, the man who didn't lose that title, Breaker Morant. Now, I noticed his actions were a little unbecoming of a champion, but you kind of have to pause because he's not exactly wrong. He never did lose that title. How do you feel about Breaker Morant's actions, Jim?
Well, like you said, they were rather despicable. I don't know why he didn't say, hey, I've got clearance to wrestle. I'd like to come back. And I'm sure everyone would have said, hey, let's promote the current champion against the man who never lost the championship. It's smart booking, if you want to call it that, if you want to use that term, but it's smart promotion. As to letting the fans know, hey, this is a a former champion who deserves his shot back at what he believes is truly his, and maybe it is technically. And you've got Ray, who said, "Hey, I've been defending this championship for the last several months, a year maybe, for exactly how long it's been." So they both have a good point as to why they should have that championship, and it's smart promotion to say, "Hey, let's run with it."
Yeah.
I mean, needless to say, the show that is already, everything's been announced. Looks incredible. Just $20 for the ticket. You're going to get 3 title matches. You're going to see some of the best talent in New Jersey and really in the Northeast. And it all takes place in the Max Fit Sports Center in Glassboro, New Jersey. Jim, thank you so much for your time. This card looks incredible, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good night. Again, DAWG is a promotion that one of the reasons I'm affiliated with them is because it's a family-oriented event. I think there need to be more of those out around the country. There should be more family-oriented events. It's as coming from the company end, and I always thought this when I was running my own company, it's smarter to try to sell 4. It's better to try to sell 4 tickets to a family of 4 than it is to one teenager off the street.
Sure.
Let's fill the building up, and let's fill them up with the families. Families are going to come out to this and have a great time, and they've said it to us before. Jaden can account for this too. Hey, you guys did something really great here tonight. We'll be back for the next one, and not I will be back. We will be back.
That's great.
Yeah, I love it. I love when the young kids get so into it, because you don't get that in the WWE. You don't get that in the big time companies where you have that intimate experience where you're just right there and you can hear and feel everything, and the excitement is, you can cut it with a knife. I love stealing that cliche. It's such a different experience watching the kids scream and yell and jump up and down and tell everybody about it and get high fives from their favorite wrestlers and boo their ones that they hate the most and cheer and cry if their favorite loses. It's such a great, well, I guess crying probably is not a great experience, but you know what I'm saying? It's great to see their emotional reaction. We have a special kid who is a huge fan in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Mr. Zaccone, you got to get a better name. It's hard to say. Anyway, his name is Briar. He's a autistic kid, but Down syndrome, I think. So incredibly in love with wrestling, and just an absolute bright spot watching him just enjoy himself. It really brings back the magic. It's like a kid watching your kid open a present at Christmas. It's such an amazing experience to see that.
That's awesome. That's
incredible. You've done something right if a kid enjoyed the show, and when he comes back to the next, or I shouldn't say show, when you have an event and they enjoy the matches, they come back to the next night of matches with a friend.
Yeah.
So that means something.
Yeah, it 100% does. And I think that speaks volumes about the work you guys are putting in Glassboro. That speaks volumes about the reputation that DAWG has in South Jersey. And it kind of leads to the name, the number one wrestling promotion in South Jersey is Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I think that's going to be it for us on time. But again, Jim, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the stories. I definitely would like to talk to you again in the future. I hope we can make some time down the road and talk some more ECW, NWA, and of course, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators.
Sure, not a problem. Always willing to take a few minutes to talk wrestling.
Well, appreciate your time. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And that was Jim Molineaux. Did I get it right? Molineaux. I apologize, Jim, and when you watch this later, I've been working on pronouncing that correctly for about a month now. I don't know why it is so difficult for me to say, but I have full transparency. Jaden sent over a phonetic spelling, and even then I'm still having difficulty pronouncing it. So maybe my career in broadcast journalism should be in jeopardy.
I have a question there for you, Jay. What's harder, Cahagas or Molineaux?
Well, I got Cahagas down, right? Like Cahagas. I don't put the N in there anymore. I don't call him Congus. It's Cahagas. And, it's funny. You mentioned Damian Wayne. You mentioned Chance Prophet. You didn't mention Cahagas. He won the title there, man. He won the 10 pounds of gold.
And not only did he win the 10 pounds of gold there, he wrestled for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Championship against Dirty Money, the very first time DAWG ever had an event at this building. Then it was known as the Maximum Sports Complex, but it's the same building, and that's the first time. And it was Dirty Money versus Cahagas for the DAWG Championship.
That's right. So, such a great night that's coming up for you guys on Saturday night. I know we've talked about all the matches. Jaden, which one are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I really want to see Patch murder Dave Dahl.
Can you talk to your YouTube department and get that one up first? Because we all want to see that one.
I think that one we may actually save the pay for. We'll put it on DVD or pay-per-view. But also, you know what? Obviously, the championship match is really good on there. And the Alliance-Wrestling.com sponsored match with Tony Vincita versus Nikos Ricos. That is also that may be the sleeper match of the event.
When Dr. Zirconium said, "Hey Jay, we have an opportunity for you to sponsor a match," we see a lot of other wrestling promotions are starting to do that, and we would like to offer you that opportunity. Nikos Ricos is a guy that I know he's dastardly, but he's somebody that is so much fun to watch in that ring, and he's somebody that I've been paying a lot of attention to. So when I was told that, hey, you could sponsor a match, that was the one that kind of spoke to me because, again, Ty Thomas and Nikos Ricos have been tearing down the house for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I want to see what's going to happen on Saturday night.
Another thing that I think you love, too, is besides all his wrestling influences, Nikos has also been influenced by Bane from the Batman series, not just the movies, but the comic books, the television show, and all of it. He doesn't have any super venom to pump into himself, but he does have a bit of a cruel streak like that Bane does. And like Bane broke Batman's back, I think he's going to try to break the back of Tony Vincita on April 23rd.
Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that because we don't want to see anyone get injured. But before we end our night of previewing the marking our territory, we did sit down with Ray Jaz last week, and we're going to play that interview in its entirety, and we're going to play that right now, and then Jaden and I will be back in just a minute. So stay tuned, and we'll get right. And I think you guys will be all excited to meet our new pal here, and I'm going to bring him on in just a second. And of course, I'm talking about the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators heavyweight champion Ray Jaz, who joins me now. Welcome to the show, Ray. What's going on, man?
What's going on? How we doing today?
Good. Hey, thanks for taking some time to talk with us today. I know you have a very limited schedule, so we do appreciate you stepping on here with us to talk a little DAWG Pro Wrestling, and especially the big event that's coming up on April the 23rd in Glassboro at the Max Fit Sports Center, where you're going to defend your DAWG Championship against Breaker Moran. The guy that they're billing he never lost the title, but I look at it a little bit differently. I looked at it as he could never beat you for that title. Let's talk about your journey to Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. You went from a collegiate athlete, an All-American at NYU, to the independent wrestling scene. How did that transition happen, and how did you go from amateur collegiate wrestling to pro wrestling?
It's actually it's a pretty long story, but I'll kind of short it for you.
Okay.
So basically, when I was done with college, I was still a prime athlete, and I didn't want to stop being an athlete. And it was a time where they took some weight classes out of the Olympics, and they took some weight classes out of MMA. And I was in that weird weight class where it's like, well, do I cut down to 155, or do I go up to like around 180 and like fight guys that are cutting down from 200? when I just needed to get up. And I wrestled 157 in college and then 165. So I'm like, do I want to cut down to 155? No, probably not. I don't feel like cutting weight anymore. I've done it for over 20-something years. So then I was still wrestling. I was doing camps and clinics around New York City. And it was Midwood High School where the coach there was awesome. He was very cool. He was an old school guy, and he was best friends with Bob Backlund. And I was doing a camp in Brooklyn, and Bob Backlund was there. And he goes, "Would you ever think about pro wrestling?" I was like, "Oh, I was a fan when I was a kid, but I don't know. How do I get into this? How do I start doing it?" And he guided me to Damian Adams and everything. And it's funny because the guy that was coaching at Midwood was like, "Oh, Bob would never tell you to get in the wrestling business," but it was the opposite. Bob was like, "No, we need you in the wrestling business." I was like,
"Well, yeah,
hey, here we go." And it's been almost 4 years now, and it's been, going all full steam ahead 4 years now. So yeah, I don't look back at anything. I'm enjoying it, and I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. Like I've heard a lot of great stories about Bob Backlund, talking with a lot of talent from that Northeast area. I heard stories with Fred Rosser telling him how Fred Rosser really was inspired by a lot of what Backlund was kind of showing him in the early days. Did he actually help you train at all, or who did you train with?
No, I trained with Damian. Bob just got me in touch with Damian right away. And the cool story is Fred was trained by Damian Adams as well. And, Fred always comes back and rolls with me and helps me. So it's neat how everything works full circle like that.
That's incredible. And you've only been at this for 4 years. I mean, anyone who's familiar with your face, I mean, they've seen you now on on AEW programming. You're making a lot more stops all around the Northeast. You're really, in such a short amount of time, you're really just kind of exploding. I mean, I know the pandemic kind of slowed things down, but it seems like you're firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, and that's it. Taking advantage of the opportunity. And I also did 205 Live my first, less than a year in, I did that. Okay. But, when COVID happened, right, it kind of opened up some opportunities and it kind of shut others down. But instead of, sulking about it, it made me perfect my craft even more. And I have so many tools in my arsenal now that, people just haven't seen anything yet. If they think they saw a lot, oh man, that's not even scratching the surface of what I got.
So I'm all the way out here in Southern California, and I've been watching your maturation process through the DAWG Pro Wrestling website, the YouTube videos. Dr. Lawrence Zirconium and Jaden and all the folks over there have been doing a good job of documenting the process, I would say. And we've seen some of your matches, and like I said, you come in such a far way in such a short amount of time, and your timing in the ring looks very sharp. You look very crisp in the ring. And I mean, how much of your collegiate background plays into your pro wrestling today?
Oh, everything. I credit my whole work ethic to 20 plus years of amateur wrestling. I mean, it's the work ethic that is getting me so good and getting me good quick, because it's just like it's just the attitude of being an amateur wrestler, the attitude that I had. I was an All-American. I had the most wins in NYU history.
Wow.
And it was just, I was so competitive, and my work ethic there was nonstop. And it's the same thing with wrestling, with pro wrestling now. I want to get better every day. I got to find ways to get better. I got to find ways to push myself. And, with timing and movement, I learned that from Damian Adams and of course, Fred Rosser too, right? Damian's big on no wasted steps, no wasted steps, no wasted steps. And that's just drilled in my head. No wasted steps, and use what you know. And what do I know for 20 plus years? Amateur wrestling. So, I mean, that's what I do. And it gels pretty nice because, it's not like what I do. It's just natural. When I tell everyone, it's like, I'm just going to go out there and friggin' wrestle you. That's what I do. I'm a wrestler. Yeah. Sorry.
Did you ever look at the other side of the aspect, like mixed martial arts or any other kind of combat sports, or did pro wrestling just kind of speak to you?
When I was in the city and when I was wrestling in college, I would go to Renzo Gracie's academy and I would roll with a lot of the UFC fighters, and because they want to wrestle with college wrestlers where they want to, they're getting ready for their fights. So I wrestled a bunch of UFC guys to get them ready for the fights, and I would dabble in jiu-jitsu and stuff. And I still do every once in a while, but my mind is full professional wrestling. So it's like when my mind is 100% on something, it's there. And jiu-jitsu is a lot like amateur wrestling. So it's like, I kind of get it. You know what I mean?
Right. So one thing I do want to take a swerve here just for a minute, because some of your daily tips, your lifestyle tips have popped me on social media. I follow you on Twitter, and I've seen some of the ones on Instagram too. But you've been doing that for a long time, because I saw a video just today of like your junior year in high school. You're doing lifting techniques, and you're giving tips all the way back in like your junior year in high school.
Oh, one of Zach Evanesh's videos. Huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, wow.
And taking a turn back to COVID, that's something I started during COVID. Okay, there's no shows, nothing going on. What can I do to build my brand? So I started the Jazz Tip of the Day. And it's funny, I'm coming on 2 years now. It's coming up. I got a special one for everyone on the 2-year mark. But that's what I did. I started the Jazz Tips, and I have to make one today, actually. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, even when I was a kid, because back then Zach Evanesh, he trained me in the gym and with my mindset and everything, and I owe him a lot. And what's funny with that, Zach was good friends with the Ultimate Warrior. Whoa. And Warrior came in maybe when I was in 7th grade. He came into the gym and just pumped me up with imagine a middle school Ray Jaz just ready to crush people on the wrestling mat, right? And Ultimate Warrior, he was just always intense. And he was very explicit with stuff too, so we're not going to get in with that.
Sure.
But basically what he said is, if you're going to do something, go effing all in. And he goes, be original. And I didn't know what be original meant back in the day, but if he was still alive, I would tell him, that's the best advice I got, because everything I do is kind of original, and it's my own thing. And he said, be effing original. And back then I didn't know what that meant, be original. I thought, just be real with people. But, now I know, be original, make your own brand and create your own brand and make yourself undeniable. And yeah, I remember I wish he was still around today, because I would have learned. So I would just pick his brain all the time. A lot of people give him a lot of hate for stuff, but he was a brand. If you want to talk about building your own brand and knowing and being original, it was definitely him. Definitely Ultimate Warrior. But yeah, going back to those videos, even when I was a kid, I used to do all that crazy stuff, and I needed how do you get better at wrestling? You can't just get better at wrestling with yourself. You need people around you.
Right.
My whole thing was, if I'm getting the people around me better, that means I'm just getting better, right? If I'm the leader. So if there's people around me getting better, it's just a good gauge of, oh man, okay, I'm getting better.
A phrase we use on this show quite a bit is steel sharpens steel. Yeah. When you see like the good talent, I'm looking at some of the names you've recently faced for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Championship. And Rhett Titus right off the bat, hell of an athlete, hell of a junior heavyweight competitor. Then you're in the ring with Dirty Money, a former DAWG champion. And you're in the ring with Richard Holiday, who that guy seems to be everywhere lately. And I feel like from watching from afar, that your career is only going better and better, and you're facing stiffer competition when you're in the ring.
Yeah, well, you take it one match at a time, right? You take it one match at a time, and every match I take it as a learning experience. You could pick something up from every match. Pick up the little things from every match, and learn from your mistakes in the ring, and learn from your opponent's mistakes, so you don't make your own mistakes and you don't make other people's mistakes. So yeah, and I get to wrestle Breaker again. We haven't wrestled since before COVID, and I actually won the title, I think, before COVID. Yeah, because he wasn't able to wrestle there, unfortunately. But the show goes on, and there has to be a winner. So I was crowned the winner. So now we get to see, who's the real champion here. Here's the grudge match, right? Here's the final battle. See who the true champion is.
And that's the thing. You guys, you have history in the past. You guys have faced off in the ring, but those circumstances seem to kind of go out the window because, again, the maturation process. 4 years into your career, by year 4, you're definitely different than you were in year 2 or year 3. And I just feel like you've got so much momentum going in to marking our territory. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk because no, you can't discount anybody like Breaker Morant, but you certainly have your hands full. But man, I see so much positivity coming out of your camp.
He has the experience, right? He has the experience, but since we wrestled before, I kind of know what to expect already. But what he doesn't know is those three. I don't know when the last time we wrestled, was it 2019? So it's been well over 2 years since the last time I wrestled, and I've gotten so much better since those last 2 years. So I don't even think he knows what he's dealing with now. I'm sure he has some tricks up his sleeves, but I got all this more new experience that I didn't have before. So it's gonna be very interesting.
Now, traditionally, your weight size, your style would kind of fit more with the junior heavyweight division. Have you ever thought about reaching out to promotions that have junior heavyweight titles, world titles, like the National Wrestling Alliance, for example, has their World Junior Heavyweight Championship
Homicide
right now?
I'd love to square up with Homicide. I thought about it, but you want to be a heavyweight. But if the cards fall there, sure, I'm willing to do that. But right now, I'm a heavyweight, so I wrestle a heavyweight, baby. That's the way it is.
There you go. So then, what are your current aspirations? I mean, look, I'm assuming that you just want to carry this title for as long as you can, but I also know that there's more to the world than just local promotion in New Jersey. I know that DAWG has a lot of great events and they've been around for quite some time, but what are your aspirations and where do you see yourself? Where do you want to go?
Well, of course, the main goal for any professional wrestler, right, is to get signed by the top companies. So, get signed by WWE, get signed by AEW, those are some of my goals, right? And those are my long-term goals, right? Those are, long-term goals. And what I tell my athletes, because I coach a lot of amateur wrestlers too, know your long-term goals, but set short-term goals so you're taking steps in the right direction. So holding this DAWG championship is just those little steps that's going to take me there.
So in terms of your short-term goals and what is right on the surface, I mean, I know we've got April 23rd, Glassboro, New Jersey at MaxFit Sports Center, the big DAWG event marking our territory, but what's on the horizon for you?
Well, for me right now, I wrestle every weekend. I wrestle every Thursday for Beyond's Wrestling Open. Okay. So right now it's wrestle as much as I can, and just build up that credit, build up my, build up my brand until I'm undeniable, and that's the only thing you could do. You can only control so much, and I'm controlling what I can, right? I can control my preparation, my work ethic, and now I can control my brand. And what's great about it is, like I said, no one has seen just anything yet. You just scratched the surface here. And what's great about it is in college and high school, I was always afraid to show off my skills and everything because I didn't want people to scout it, especially in college. People will scout anything. Now I can just show it off, which is fantastic. But like I said, I don't want to show off too much. They have to start paying to see it.
That you don't have to hold back because you're not worried about someone knowing your move set or
you can't hold back. You got to brand it now. You got to brand everything now, which is kind of annoying, but it's part of the business, and that's part of anything now. Not only just wrestling, but I'm sure your podcast, I'm sure someone's business out there. You got to learn how to work the social media. You got to learn how to connect to the people and learn how to make your brand better than someone else's.
It's funny you say that because I am a small business owner besides this, and every Friday I do dumb dad jokes on my Instagram account, and you would be surprised about how many customers I get calling saying, "Hey, aren't you the guy that does the dumb dad jokes?" And I say, "Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Yep.
Give me your business." And it works.
I want you. Give me it. Yeah.
So then let's talk about your brand then, because I mean, obviously that's the moneymaker. I mean, everything in wrestling is also kind of comes secondary because you're building out that brand where you want the promoters to find you. You want the fans to find you. How did you go into building your brand and what steps did you take to kind of design Ray Jaz? I mean, I know that's you, but the brand Ray Jaz, how did that happen?
Well, I just took everything that I do. I mean, I was known as Ray Jaz since I was in kindergarten. So I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm just kidding. But
I know in that video when you were in junior high, I mean, that's what he was calling you, junior high school, he was calling you Ray Jaz. I was like, wow, that's
yeah, Zach invented Ray Jaz, so give him all the credit.
There you go.
But what I am and what I stand for, and I tell all my athletes, right? A goal, everyone has goals. But what sets you apart from you and the other person that sets goals is your purpose. So I'm kind of that purpose. Ray Jaz is that purpose. And yeah, the jazz tips are good. And not only am I a coach, I'm a mindset coach too. And I help all these athletes and everyone deal with nerves, anxiety, everything going on in life in and out of the mat. And I'm gel that with who I am as a person. I'm very positive and energetic, and I'm very truthful too. So I tell people stuff that maybe they don't want to hear.
Sure.
So every Thursday in good old Worcester, Massachusetts, the jazz tip of the day that they don't want to hear. Jazz tip of the day, be consistent. And I bet you none of you people are consistent because you guys don't go to the gym. Something like that. And people go, oh, boo, whatever. I tell them people don't want to hear. But when I'm in Glassboro being the DAWG Championship, it's the jazz tip of the day. Take every opportunity given to you. And I wear this DAWG Championship with pride. And that's stuff people want to hear. And I'll tell them, hey, everything that you do should be with pride. Whether you wake up in the morning, make your bed, you should have pride in where you sleep. When you wake up in the morning, be thankful that you got to wake up, because people die and you have the opportunity to live today. Be thankful for the opportunity to compete if you're wrestling out there, because not everyone can do what we do. People would be very thankful to go out there in the ring and wrestle.
A motto that I've heard tied to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, good enough is the death of greatness.
Yes, that's what I live for.
And it sounds like that exactly. You just explained that pretty well. So then let me ask you this: April 23rd, Glassboro, New Jersey, marking our territory. What do you have to say to Breaker Moran if he was listening right now?
Well, what I had to tell Breaker Moran is, if he wants to be good enough, good for him. But if he wants to be great, he's going to have to beat me. And you can't control the wins and losses in anything in life. But you can control like I said, your preparation, your mentality, your work ethic, and your training. And I'm telling you, I train at another level. Everything that I do is great. It's on another level. So I can't speak for him. I can only speak for myself. And that's how I see it. He's going to have to bring something great.
That's awesome. I love the positive outlook. I'm a PMA guy myself. I try to always look for the positivity in everything. You win, lose, or draw. Let me get better. Let me learn. So it's really refreshing to hear you kind of have that same mentality as well. First of all, but also, how can people follow you on the social medias? Because I do want to get your plugs in.
Yeah.
How can they follow Ray Jaz on social media?
I'm everywhere. I mean, it's funny. My TikTok is the most out of everything, and it was funny because I was coaching these middle school kids before TikTok was a thing. They're like, Coach, you got to get TikTok. It's the new thing. I'm like, oh, TikTok, whatever. So they made it for me, and it's funny. 2 months later, boom, it blew up. So nice. TikTok, I got like 15K, and it's weird. I just throw not my old stuff, but I just throw random stuff on there, and it's funny. I'm like, who would have thought TikTok? It's like everyone wants Instagram, but I guess I was the first TikTok guy. But it's funny. So I have everything. I have TikTok. It's just Ray Jaz. Instagram, it's Ray _Jaz. I couldn't get the single underscore because, I don't know, someone else already had it.
They beat you to it.
Yeah, so it's Ray _Jaz. And then Twitter, it's funny. Twitter, it's @the_real _Ray Jaz. And it's not because, oh, it's the real. No, what happened was, in high school, someone made a fake Ray Jaz Twitter. And I didn't even have Twitter back then. I was just a kid. I guess someone was messing with me because I was a high school wrestler and everyone, not to say anything, but hey, I was a pretty big deal. But someone was joking around and made a fake Ray Jaz Twitter. So I had to go and make a real Twitter and put it as the real Ray Jaz.
That's incredible, man.
That's just a funny little thing there. Everyone's like, oh, why is your name The Real? People don't know who you are. I was like, no, it's just Something in high school, man.
Was it somebody ribbing you, or was it somebody trying to like really like, hey, this is me, you know, send me money, send me stuff, or
I think it started as a joke, but then people thought it was me. I'm like, no, it's not me. I don't know who's running it. I eventually found out who it was, and yeah, it was a funny story.
Hey, I mean, you could, if someone wanted to, like, you're in high school, like they could have said all kinds of horrible things.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's
good thing it was a group of girls, so they were all right. They were all right.
Okay. All right then. Well then, no complaints then. And then I know you have a pro wrestling tee store. You got some new shirts up there, and I saw some of your older ones, man. If you need any help, man, let me help you out on that old logo. There's a great shirt with you on it, but it's got like that black, the black part of the photo in it. And I'm like, tell Ray Jaz I'll help him out. Send me that graphic. I'll make it better for you.
Here's the thing. My other characteristic is I'm very loyal. I'm very loyal to everyone that's a part of my life. And what's funny is my gear was designed by my roommate in college.
That's awesome.
He worked for a bunch of companies in Manhattan and everything. And now he's out. He's by you. He's in the West Coast now. Well, that's where he's from. He worked for a company called Felt. And I was like, oh, I'm getting a wrestling business. He goes, oh, I got a design for you. So I wear it. I wear that with pride.
That's awesome.
And then I evolved. Now I'm the Jersey Legend, the Shore thing. I got those new shirts up there on Pro Wrestling Tees. But yeah, if you want to help me out with it, sure. I'll wear it. I'll make sure it's with pride, because now I know you and know the connection. And
I'll take a crack at it, and if you don't like it, no hard feelings.
No, I'll put it on, man. I'm telling you, I'm a loyal person, and anyone that takes care of me, I want to take care of them.
Well, that's awesome. Real excited for your continued success. Real excited for the show on the event. If Dr. Lawrence Zirconium heard me say show, he'd probably.
He would say we don't run shows.
We run events. Yeah,
we run events. We run wrestling events.
So, wishing you all the success at that event on the 23rd, and of course everything else that's coming up for you. And when the next show comes around, let's touch base again. Let's talk some more wrestling when you come back.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever you want, man. I'm here for it. You know,
awesome.
Anything that helps me out and helps you out, I'm game for it. So now we got a good connection. I really appreciate this. I really appreciate this opportunity.
And there it is. Thanks again for Ray Jaz for joining us. I also want to say thank you to our good pal, Dr. Lawrence Zirconium, for setting up these interviews. I want to say thank you to my pal Jaden here, who joined us for the podcast, Jim Molineaux, and also Chris Steeler for joining us this evening. This is going to be a great event down in South Jersey. Got an event that time. Is there anything else you would like to add, Jaden, for this big event marking your territory?
Again, it's Saturday night, April 23rd. This Saturday night, you get to see the greatest DAWG championship match of all time. As the former champion, Breaker Moran, the man who's never lost that championship, takes on the young and up-and-coming Ray Jaz, the champion of champion right now, the man who's lighting the wrestling world on fire. Two of these gladiators go in the ring. Only one will come out the big dog of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Tickets are only $20. Make sure you get them at the MaxFit Sports Center. And make sure you also check out the Alliance-Wrestling.com sponsored matchup, sponsored by our friends at the Alliance-Wrestling.com. And it is going to be Tony Vincita taking on Nikos Ricos, and will, I believe, be the sleeper match of the event.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You can buy the seat, but you'll only need the edge.
You almost didn't get that right, did you?
I almost did not know. And of course, you can follow what's happening at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. You can check them out on first their website, DAWG Pro Wrestling. You could also check them out as I'm trying to pull everything up here because I wasn't ready. On Twitter at DAWG Wrestling. That's DAWG Wrestling. You can get them on Facebook at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Just go on Facebook and search for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. They're also on Instagram at DAWG_Unleashed. Am I correct?
Yes. There used to be the same for all they want except for Facebook, but there was an issue with the DAWG Instagram getting hacked, so I know that had to be changed. But it is DAWG_Unleashed.
And then they can also follow you on YouTube. We need to get more subscribers to the DAWG page. Do you know the address off the top of your head? Because I'm looking it up right now.
I do not, unfortunately.
It is youtube.com/DAWG Pro Wrestling. So make sure you go hit subscribe after watching this video. There is so much good quality content, great matches, some shorts, some little interviews, some promos. I mean, right now I'm just looking at the page, and Zoe Starks was at one of your events a few years back. She was just at Mission Pro challenging for the Mission Pro title. A lot of cool like moments of history, like the Patriot calling out Sean Donovan, or do you get bundles getting pumped up for the DAWG event. And of course you can see matches like Dave Dahl versus Ray Jaz in a lumberjack match. You can check out Ray Jaz versus Breaker Morant the first time they met back in 2019. There's so much good quality content. Go subscribe right now. Go subscribe as soon as this interview is over. Subscribe and join that family, join that legacy, join DAWG Pro Wrestling.
One of the things I want to make sure is if you listen to Chris Steeler and you didn't get excited about him wrestling, you don't have a pulse. Go look at his matches on the DAWG YouTube page and you'll see a lot of great action. If listening to Jim Molineaux and with his personal style, what he tries to bring to DAWG doesn't get you excited, then you're not a wrestling fan. You might be a sports entertainment fan, but you're not a pro wrestling fan. And so if you listen to that, you'll understand and you'll want to see it. If after listening to Ray Jaz talk about his jazz tip of the day and how he got to where he is, well, the Jaden tip of the day is go to the DAWG Wrestling Facebook page and the Instagram and add us all in the Twitter. Then go to the DAWG YouTube page and subscribe and make sure you like and comment on every single video they have. And then finally, make sure you're at the DAWG Wrestling event this Saturday night, April 23rd at the MaxFit Sports Center in beautiful uptown rustic Glassboro, New Jersey.
That's going to do it for us tonight. We will hopefully see you guys all Saturday night down in Glassboro. We'll see you tomorrow for the pre-party with me, and Thursday night we'll see Jaden and DKM as we do the Alliance Guys podcast recapping NWA Power. But until then, we'll see you at the match. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are the